I'm Willie, speaking to you today on behalf of Ascension Parish Libraries. We're here for our first Kokusaika craft. If you're one of our regular Kokusaika kids, I miss you, I hope you're doing good. If you're new, then you should know I'm Mr. Willie. Hi! We're going to be making this dragon ornament today, and it's shaped like the dragon from Spirited Away. So, we'll be getting started on that shortly. Hi, how's everybody doing today? I'm Mr. Willie, and this is our first Kokusaika Make and Take craft. What we have here is a make-your-own dragon ornament. The dragon is from the classic movie Spirited Away. This is also a craft that was provided by Otaku Crafts, so special thanks to them. We're going to start by cutting their shapes out of our paper. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory. But one thing that I do want to mention is that these spirals need to be cut out in a spiral. So, you're going to start following the inside line right here where my scissors are, and just cut it all the way through to the center. Following that line. That's the first part that might be a little tricky. But for the most part, you're just cutting the outside of the shapes. As you can see, I'm almost to the center of that spiral, and when I get there, I'm going to cut that circle out of the middle so that it's hollow on the inside of the tail. Be sure you're careful with the scissors. So I'm cutting the outside of this shape now. When you're done, it should look like a little cartoon pigtail. A little spiral pattern, wide at one end and thin at the other. Well, I missed a spot. So it should look something like this when you're done. That's one of the trickiest part. For the head, you'll be fine just cutting the outside shape out. Now through the magic of television, we're going to skip forward a little bit. Ta-da! And welcome back. As you can see, I went ahead and finished cutting out that first sheet. Now this part gets a little tricky too. You'll notice on these dragon hairs, there's a little thin blue line at the very bottom. You want to be careful not to cut that little thin blue line out, because we're going to need that thin blue line later. So when you cut, just be careful to avoid that. the sake of time, I'm going to leave a little white space at the end of my green hairs, but you don't have to if you don't want to. In fact, it probably would look better if you didn't. So I'll probably trim that up a little bit in a few seconds, but the important takeaway here is that when you cut these hairs out, leave that thin blue line. All right, and we're going to skip forward again. Okay, now I've got everything cut out. Hopefully you do too. Remember, you can pause the video if we're going too fast for you. Our next step is going to be to take the tail and put the colored sides on the outside as they face towards each other. So it'll look something like this. I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm going to glue them down that way. If you have regular just liquid glue at home, that'll work too. You just want to be careful not to use too much or it'll bleed through. I'm taking my glue stick and I'm going in a little spirally pattern. And it'll look like this when you're done. Hopefully it'll line up a little better. You should make sure the ends line up if you can. But it's too late for me now. And when you hold it at the top, it should come out and make a little spring coil like that. All right. The next step is to go ahead and glue the dragon's head on. If you're like me and your end doesn't line up perfectly, this is the part that'll cover that up. Ta-da! So I'm going to take my glue. And hopefully your glue won't have glued itself to its top. I'm going to take my glue. And glue the dragon's head on. Might need a little bit more glue than I had. So that's what you'll have so far. Next up, it gets a little bit more complicated. I'm going to take my dragon hair and I'm going to line it up, but I'm not going to glue it yet. Remember how earlier I said it was very important to keep this thin blue line at the bottom? Now's why. So we're going to take our scissors, we're going to make little slits, little bitty cuts along that blue line, every few quarter of an inches, we'll say. And then you should be able to bend it back. What you'll end up with is the hair sticking out vertically, and these little blue spines coming out horizontally. I'm going to glue it together to make it easier to bend the rest of those back now. But I'm only gluing it at the top so that the blue parts don't glue together. Oh, whoopsie. So now that it's glued together, I'm just going along and bending back these blue spines. Alright, so when you're done, you should have little blue spines sticking out of the green hairs like this. Once again, that'll leave the green hairs sticking out one way and the blue spines sticking out another. Now, rather than watching me bend those blue things back all day, we're going to time skip forward one more time. Alright, and welcome back. Now I've gone ahead and bent back these dragon spines so that the hairs have little blue extensions coming off the bottom. And we're going to put a lot of glue both on the spine and on the dragon. You might have to apply some pressure to get this to work correctly. But I'm going to start like that. And then glue those spines around the dragon's edges. Like that. And if you want, you can try and bend that top spine up a little bit so that it matches the hair that's coming off of his head. But for the most part, you want it sticking up like that. And then you'll take the next spine, attach it to the first one, and glue that down in very much the same way. Like I said, it does work better if you put the glue on both ends. I forgot why I didn't do that this time. I'm going to push it down just to try and make sure it stays down. Yep, so far so good. I'm going to put a little bit of glue at that joint because it came loose a little bit. But you do want to put the little slot inside of the other dragon tail hair. I've only got one left. It's a little tricky because they want to close and glue up, so you gotta take your time. Be careful. Now I've got so much glue on my fingers, it's sticking to those. I'm going to fix a little problem spot with some more glue. Alright, I think we're going to do a little magic of television while I wash some of this glue off my hands. Give me one moment. Alright everybody, welcome back. If you have your dragon's spine glued all the way down, then what you're going to want to do next is glue down those tail feathers. This part's pretty self-explanatory. Just take some glue. And glue down that tail feather. And stick it on the thin end of the tail. Alright. That should leave your dragon looking something like this at this point. Next up, I'm going to take the hole puncher and I'm going to poke a hole in his head. Right between the eye and the horn is probably the best place. We're going to take a piece of string and we're going to tie that through that hole right there. Alright, so I'm going to take this piece of string. I'm going to string that through that hole and tie it off. You should have had a piece of string in your package, but any string will do. Anything you can find around the house, as long as it'll fit through a little hole punched hole. If you have a hard time with the knots, maybe ask an adult in your household to help you. Alright. And on that note, you should be done. This is your dragon. Hi, that was our craft for today. I hope you had a good time making your dragon craft. We can go ahead and share those if you like on our Ascension Parish Library Facebook page or any of our other social media sites. We got this craft from Otaku Crafts, and I'm saying goodbye. I was Mr. Willie. This is the Ascension Parish Libraries, and I hope you have a great time.